Welcome back to part two of the creepy crystalline skulls. No, they're not creepy, but check out Michelle Gray. Hello, Michelle, in the description box below and on the screen. Hello to Erik. I love you. He's on the other side, but he is channeling, he is providing with such great information about these 13 plus skulls that hold a lot of power. All right, let's go on with the questions from the wonderful community. Is the number of, oh, this is interesting. I read this. Is the number of skulls significant to something? I mean, numerology, come on. Like, why 13? It connects to the death card in tarot, which is about transformation and death and spiritual growth. Plus, Jesus with his 12 disciples for the Last Supper equaled 13. Jesus and his 12 disciples. Any significance in that? Of course, you said there were more than 13, so.
Okay, so he says there's 13 of this type.
Oh,
So he says that there are other ones and he shows they're different beings. He says animals as well, like
oh,
but they are skulls. They are
okay.
skulls, but they're of other beings. But with these particular ones that we're speaking of, he says yes, the number 13. He's giving direct correlation to the 12 disciples
Mm.
and Jesus. He's also he mentioned this before about the moon cycles
Oh,
in
yeah.
astrology. He says that 13 was through history, 13 was developed into a number that was something to be feared, something to be scared of, that it was the offset number. And he said that actually comes from the Bible.
Well, the
So,
Anunnaki, who made sure that we didn't want to have anything to do with skulls because they're to be
yes,
feared, pirate flag and Halloween,
yes,
they made
yes,
sure that we didn't like the number 13 because it holds so
yes,
much power. It's unlucky. There's no 13th floor, Friday the 13th. So
yes.
what was the root of that 13?
He's saying that there was now I'm not familiar with this, so maybe somebody who has some more history with this, but he's saying that there was a something that happened after the Last Supper, or a murder. He's
Hmm.
showing that there's a history of a murder around Jesus, and he's saying it was like the 13th person,
Hmm.
the 13th person, and he's saying
Okay.
that there was a murder around it, and so that it made people fear
Oh, yeah.
the 13th. The
Yeah, but
13th person is the
oh,
unlucky person. So he says it's going back in history to something that took place. And then he's saying what you said, Mom. We take a situation and we create a lot of fear around it. We say
yeah.
that this number is unlucky. So anytime, and he goes, what do we understand about manifestation and beliefs when it comes to numbers, superstitions,
Yeah.
anything else?
Yeah.
He says if you think it's going to do something negative, then it's going to do something negative to you.
Right. But
And
this
he
was,
says that,
the skulls predate Jesus. So why any
well,
significance
he says
to,
that the 13 with the skulls is directly connected to constellations, to the stars.
oh, okay. All
He
right.
says that, so
Cool.
but he says where the number 13 came from, why people feel that ominous feeling, is connected to things that have happened in history and people attaching their beliefs to it.
Including the Anunnaki, making sure that we did not like skulls and did not like 13.
Yes.
They wanted to oppress us. Okay, apparently they have imprints. I did not know that. What do the imprints mean? I'm gonna look up one of those. Well, I could probably the fake one anyway. Yeah, are there any significance to imprints?
Imprints in the skulls.
Yeah.
Well, there's imprints for healing. Um, Erik says that they're coded. So he says they're coded with the flower of life.
Oh,
So they're coded with the ability to be able to heal, to rejuvenate, to transform, to be able to change from one state to another, to assist people in being able to do that. Um, he says it's healing on all levels, whether it's healing of the mind or healing of the body. He says that they're also able to time travel.
oh,
So he says that they can act as portals as well.
wow.
So they're
That's
encoded with the
cool.
information. And he says, and Mom, wink, wink. He goes, your crystals are headed in that direction too.
Ask a little bit about that, but okay, this is, we already know the answer to this, but I'm gonna read it because it's funny. Why are they in the shape of skulls? Seems a bit morbid. Wouldn't crystal shapes of unicorns and fairies have been more friendly? I love that. But we know why. We know why. All right, do crystals in the shape of a skull that you could find in a crystal store, do they have the same benefits as these ones that were crafted in Atlantis and the Palladians and stuff?
Well, he says, yes and no, because they're in the shape of, so the intention is there. The intention is to create something that mimics or mirrors the original. And he says, so are they as powerful? No, they're not. But he says a person can charge that skull to be powerful and matching to them. So a person could use their own crystal skull and encode it themselves and use that same intention and belief. So he says another thing you can do is you can, with your intention, is you can ask for the presence of the purest form of the Atlantean crystal skull, and you can imprint it yourself and work with it.
Is that something you and I can do, Eric, in the scalar field with the rest of the divine
Yes.
team? All right,
Yes.
tell me what we should do. Encode it with what? The flower of life, the
Yes. He
would be
says, yes, encoding it with the flower of life, because he says the flower of life is everything. It is
something.
everything.
Anything else we can
So
should encode it with?
he's showing me future timelines, because he says when we encode the crystals, we also want to include what it's able to do in the future that we haven't seen yet, that we
Okay.
haven't had access. So he's saying to, he's calling it protecting future timelines, protecting future portals for the purpose of transmutation and transportation.
Okay. So maybe so so I'm in the field. What do? I encode it with the flower of life
Encode it
and
with the flower of life. And he says it's the scripting that you'll use around it.
okay, yeah.
So he says, use the flower of life as a symbol
Mhm.
that you're putting into it.
Okay.
And he says it's the scripting to use around it. So the words that you're using to give space to there being future encoding that you will add to it. And
Okay.
he says, but it's protected, meaning that other people are not able to access it and add to it.
Okay.
It's
All right,
coming
but if
through
I
you.
want to sell these to people, how can they use it? Can they use it to heal themselves? Or are you talking
Yes.
this is just for me?
No, he says, for you, he says, he's saying for the scripting for what you're going to do in the future.
Okay.
He says that this will be for what you're able to either hand over to someone else to do or what you're going to do. But he says for other people, when they're getting a crystal that has the flower of life in it, he says now they have the ability then to take that, and they can take that crystal and say inject their, whether it be the healed body.
Okay.
He says they're accessing their healed body, and he says this is a form of time travel, because when they're holding this crystal, when they're with this crystal, he says they're speaking to the healed body. They're bringing the healed body
Oh,
into the
wow.
present moment.
I like that. I
So
know exactly what to say. That'd be fun. All right. Were you all ever living as a human or channeling the skull now, I guess?
no,
Okay. Did you have like a past life in Atlantis?
he's saying the crystals themselves did not have a past life in
Okay.
Atlantis. No.
What about, are they extraterrestrials?
He says the best way to explain it would be like there's influence of extraterrestrials, but
Okay.
it's not a specific consciousness that has had life.
Are you female, male, or a mix of both, or neutral?
He says that If we had to choose, we would say neutral, but he says some of the skulls do lean towards having more of a masculine or a feminine,
Okay. All right.
depending on
Okay.
what they're doing.
Do y'all have names?
He says they've had many names.
Really? Ralph, Buddy, Esther,
He says Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell? No, really. Do you really have names? And who names you?
He says the names were often given uh, based on the caregiver. The keeper.
Okay. I got you. Okay. Does each skull contain data? If yes, what kind of data and how can they be accessed? We already know that. But do you need the master skull to access the other ones?
No, no. He says the master skull is kind of like your backup.
Oh, okay.
It's like the backup, so it's
Oh,
got
yeah.
information on all of them, on everything.
Can we tap into the frequency of these skulls even if we don't have one in our possession?
Yes.
How do we
you
do
can.
that?
Okay,
Meditate?
so he says the first thing you want to do, like you're tapping into anything, he says it would be a good idea to actually have a piece of clear quartz,
Oh,
one that's most aligned to you. So he says if you're going out to buy a piece of clear quartz, you want to spend a little time with it, cleanse it, get it used to your energy.
yeah.
And he says it doesn't have to be in the form of a skull or anything like that. He goes, just it's one that feels good to you, one that you
Right.
have imprinted with. He
Like
says the
one of the
next
ones
thing
I'm
that you
going to
want to,
sell. Yeah.
what's that?
Like one of the ones I'm going to sell with
Yes,
archery encoding. Okay.
yes, yes. He says the next thing that you want to do is you want to instruct your crystal to help you tap into, and he goes, and remember, you want to use the intention of tapping into the highest version. He goes, because there's a lot of different information that's encoded in them. So he says you're attaching yourself or connecting into the consciousness of the highest version of the Atlantean crystals. And he's saying to be clear about the ones held by the priest and priestesses. So you're tapping into the highest, clearest, and purest form. And he says, and from that, you speak to it the way you would any other consciousness. He says, do you want to introduce yourself? Do you want to ask who they are? What their name is? Is there anything they'd like to share with you? He goes, what's the intention of why you're connecting? Are you connecting because you're curious? Or are you connecting because you would like some help with healing? He goes, really think about the reason why you're connecting. Because he says the value of what your intention is the value of what you're going to be able to get out
Yeah.
from the connection.
Yeah. Interesting. One man stated that he could communicate with a crystal skull and it was actually audible. Are these skulls inanimate objects or something else we don't understand? Well, they have a consciousness. We know crystals do. But could you really hear them?
Yes. Well, he says it's like anything else that there are times where we do hear with the outer meridians.
Oh,
We
yeah.
are able to hear voices that aren't connected to physicality.
Okay.
So he says it's the same idea.
Okay. But did he actually hear? If somebody else was with him, could they hear anything audible coming from that skull? He probably just telepathically heard.
He says that there has been an instance where more than one person did hear, but he's saying that it's using elements in the vicinity. Like it's not,
Okay.
it's like bouncing off of it,
All
bouncing off the body.
Okay. All right. Let's see if we can have short answers for the rest of it because I don't have enough for the third one. All right. Are any of the Atlantean crystal skulls still intact? Or are they all intact? The 13?
He says they're not all intact, but they're together. So there might be some that seem to have he's showing me like the jaw not being intact
Oh,
on one, so not completely
what
intact.
happened? Earthquake?
Yeah, he's saying it's like natural effect.
Okay. I got you.
natural effect.
Where are most of them? Are they just scattered across all the four corners of the globe? Corners, but
Yes.
okay.
A lot of them are underground.
Okay. Or any of them at the bottom of an ocean?
Yes.
Okay.
There's one in the ocean.
All right. There are other man-made skulls in crystal shops. Can they be used like the original skull? We answered that. Are these skulls used for earth grid work? If so, how are they used? Does the 13 connote bringing divine feminine into the earth grid? Ooh, cool.
Yes. Yes and yes. And Erik says in the same way that you can connect consciously with the skulls, you can also put your intention into your grid work with the crystal skulls as well.
Oh, wow. Should all these skulls have been left where they were, untampered with? Well, maybe they are. Maybe you don't know because the ones that are found are fake, except for one.
He says that they'll be found at the time that that we're able to use them.
Oh, good.
He says the one in the bottom of the ocean, he says is okay, 1, 2, 3 of them will never be found in this
Oh,
lifetime.
wow. All right. Has removing them, I don't know that they were removed because they except for one, messed with their mission, whatever that might have been.
No, because he says that there's many probabilities of how they're able to work with humanity and work with the universe. And so there's never a time that they're not on their mission.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Do all skulls turn into crystal after a long period of time, or only those who reach a higher spiritual enlightenment and transcend? So I don't think these skulls come from a body. They're just,
No,
yeah.
no.
Will we ever be able to replicate these crystals? Just like the ETs did with the lights and water?
Yes, because he says, this is a process that's happening right now where we're returning and then some to our state of being at one time when we were Atlantean.
Hmm.
And he says that he's just backing up a second. He says that the body does crystallize. He's saying the skull can, dependent on the vibration of a human body at the end of its life, that does happen.
Wow, I think this person probably channeled that information. That's cool. Now, the British Museum had possession of one of these skulls. It is not on display. First of all, did the British Museum have one of the real ones ever? Okay. Well, then I don't have to ask, did they sell it or was it stolen? Where is it? It doesn't make any difference. Will there be a method which will allow information encoded in the skull to be released to everyone?
Not in this lifetime.
Okay. Why is the deep purpose of the 13 crystal skulls to be together? Well, first of all, is that the deep purpose of the 13?
No, it's not that they have to be together. It's being able to uncover the information that's stored.
Okay.
The purpose.
Do they have a message they would like to give the collective for this time on this planet? Good one. And that's the final one.
Okay. What they're saying is that each and every one of you have an opportunity right now to create your own guidebook. You are your own historian. And the crystals, and not only that, but nature, everything around you has an ability to be part of your story, to record what it is that you're experiencing. So make sure that you value what it is that you are experiencing today, for you really can't foretell many generations ahead that will have a great deal of education and interest from what it is that you're experiencing. Nothing is insignificant.
Interesting. Erik, are we on together the right track for the encoded crystal business we're trying to start together? I mean, I'm gonna engrave some with these symbols, but then that takes a lot of time, so I'll have to charge a little bit more. But then I can also, have somebody make stencils and then put glass paint on the stencils. I don't know if that will be just as good, but it'll be cheaper.
He
So what do you think
he
about that?
says, Mom, yes, it will be just as good because he says you have to understand, Mom. He says it truly is the intention and being in the scalar field
Yeah.
that is the most important.
Yeah, and there are certain mantras that associated with these codes, like
Yes.
Om Akshriyan and
Yes.
Om Mantarash. I've got all
Yes.
on. It's pretty cool.
He's because he says
Okay.
it's the vibration and the information that we are encoding them with, the intention, and of course the scalar field. And he says, we are right on task, Mom. He says that this has been something that's been in the making because we are returning to our roots with this.
Cool. Do I need to, I've got information about each code, what it means, how to meditate with them, etc. Would it be appropriate just to have a card with the shape of the symbol, which, well, they'll see it anyway, but just like a QR code that will take them to that information? In addition to, I'm going to have it on the website too.
Yes. Yes, he says that that's fine. He says that the crystal, and he's talking about the eyes. So he says the eyes being the window to the soul. So it's like the eyes take a photograph,
Okay.
takes a photograph, like a memory of what's encoded. So when they see the symbol, it's immediately in.
Cool. So I'm gonna have it like just, if they order a scalar service, I'll say, do you want to add a crystal to your whatever? But also gonna have a page right where it's for merchandise. Merch, it says merch/crystals. They can look at it there with the information. But do you think I'll ultimately, in order to sell more, have to have its own website?
He says that eventually it will,
Yeah,
because he says right now we're in the very beginning stages.
yeah.
And he says it's going to expand, so it's going to need something that's more direct. It's going to need its own space. Yeah.
Well, my design is that, it's scalar work takes a long time. And so the services are not they're not cheap.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to have something that people struggle financially with. Like there's one Om Akshriyan symbol that helps manifestation and healing and
Yes.
stuff like that. Do you think that might do almost just as good as like the main scalar service to help people that can't afford price?
He says that's what we're refining things to.
Yeah.
That's what we're helping. We're helping blend that together so it can be easily accessible. And also, he says, Mom, to help knock off some time for you.
Well, add time probably, but
Give you
anyway.
more time. To give you more time.
Oh, okay.
Personal
So,
time.
and we want Michelle to have the people to have the ability to add Michelle's light language to their crystal and then send them the audio of that, email them the audio of that. And that could be, want this, and this $20 more or whatever, I don't know. But looking at websites, there's none that do Arcturian or Atlantean encoding of crystals, but there are some that have Reiki infused or light language infused, and these people are charging an arm and a leg like $249, and I don't want to do that. So I think we're gonna try to make it more accessible to people. There are people out there
Yeah.
that need healing.
Yes.
And sometimes the people who are the poorest are the ones that need their manifestation powers the most, and they're
Yes, and
to be
he also
healed.
says, Mom, he says it's also giving alternatives, not only in that way, but different things do work for different people. So
Yeah.
something may help. He says somebody that is in a really low vibration, having the crystal and the symbol is going to help them daily
Yeah,
to raise
there's
that
one,
vibration.
the Om Mantarash one that purifies and transmutes energy and also releases blocks like from
Yes,
trauma and stuff. So
yes,
I'm going to start out with, how many should I start out with? Because there's 14 symbols, and it's going to be hard to make, you know, like 100 of this. It cost me an arm and a leg up front.
he says like literally he's saying 5 or 6 in the
Okay,
beginning.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to choose. All right. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, people, for
Thank you.
listening. Please hit subscribe and the notification bell and the like button. Thumbs up. All right. And Eric, I love you. Michelle, I love you. And I'll get back
Love
to
you
you
too.
about what Annika says
Okay, that
about
sounds
mine.
good.
I'll get it
Sounds
to you
good.
right now.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Erik said, love you, Mom.
I love
Love
you.
you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.